Innovators, we are back again. We are the Mighty Shed, pleasure-focused futurists, and this is the space we're going to use to bring some innovation to you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our very own George Barton. Dude, what is in your head today?
Thank you, Mark. So in my head today, it's Elon Musk, but I'm not going to make this political. But the topic is his tweet that he made yesterday, which simply said, "You are the media now," which as of about 30 minutes ago had 92.5 million views on X, no longer called Twitter. The reason I thought this was a good topic to talk about, one, it made me go straight to our future code of Wetopia and thinking about the creators of us being the creators of our ideal world. But I thought I'd take us back on a little journey because I was like, you are the media now. I was like, okay, interesting. He's put a time element on it. But I thought I'd just have a very quick look to stimulate our conversation on, okay, this has been happening for a while. So where are we at when we think of the size of audiences that are now across new platforms, and where do we think this might go in the future, which is what we'll talk about. So I hit you with the big four. At the moment, monthly active users in billions: Facebook 3 billion, Instagram 2, TikTok 1.7, and X, he's running behind. He's on 0.57. Still pretty hefty. But then I thought, well, let's go back. When did people start becoming almost editors of information, so to speak, out to the world? Wikipedia, that was 2001. And so at the moment, Wikipedia has approximately 4.3 billion unique global visitors a month, which is pretty impressive. It goes down to the English Wikipedia has 122,000 active registered users, the people that are actively editing the information on there. It's like, okay, Wikipedia, that's moved people along. It was huge, obviously, when it came out in terms of what information is, how correct it is. But then thinking more digital in terms of the metaverse, 2004 and the otherverse, like ridiculous that that's 20 years ago. But now they're looking at their third generation platform, but they've already got 50 million users on that. So in terms of where these communities, in terms of you are the media now, I'm like, okay, right, metaverse, definitely still a thing. You've got people like Roblox, 2016, but now at 380 million monthly active users. Then one that's been getting a lot of conversations lately is Substack. So Substack in Feb 23 had 20 million monthly active subscribers. Jump forward to January 24, 49.4 million unique visitors a month. They've got 3 million paid subscriptions, and they've doubled the number of people earning more than $1 million on Substack in the last year. So when Elon starts to talk about you are the media now, I think it's just super interesting to go, well, you know, he's attacking legacy, traditional media, so to speak. But also, what are these platforms that people are interacting with and thinking about, well, how can I create change, put my views out there, fact check people, whatever it might be, that there's this huge wealth of platforms that are out there. And it made me also then think, well, for brands, there was an amazing stat the other day that when we think of like even how do brands play on these platforms and how are they engaging with the audience, you've got someone like the CEO of Chili's, Kevin Hochman, right, in the US, Chili's restaurants, one TikTok on a new food item, their triple dipper, he says is roughly 40% of the chain sales growth over the past quarter, right? And it just, for me, it just made me think of like, well, on one level, you've got us as people are the media now, and we can put our views out there and influence change everywhere. And also then the power of actually one consumer enjoying this product from Chili's can actually inversely affect that business's revenue for that quarter. So I guess my question and where my head is at today is just like, if we are the media now, where do we think it might go from here?
Well, that puts
that puts my head in a couple of different places. It takes me back to something we worked on a while ago, George, when we were coming up with those personas, and one of them was about social casting. And I think that's something that we're already doing right now. We're already in kind of the infancy, if not the second generation of social casting. Of like you said, with the Chili's thing, one person's visit can change the whole view of a particular item just because they have the followership and people that believe in what they're saying. So, like, we're already in that space. But when it comes into the fact that you are the news now, you are the media now, it gets real scary because it then turns into this whole thing of like, is this actually news? Is this factual? Or is this somebody's opinion? And then I believe in that opinion more than I believe in the actual fact, because it's turned into this whole thing of like, if someone with a large enough followership says something and enough people believe it, that then becomes the fact, even though it probably can be proven wrong, which is a scary place. It takes me to big comic book fan. Been reading comic books my whole life. There was this DC/Vertigo book called Transmetropolitan. There's this guy, Spider Jerusalem. Actually looks a lot like Mark if Mark got a spider tattoo on his forehead. But he's this crazy gonzo journalist, and his whole thing, like throughout the comic, was like kind of to bring down the media, pull out the truth, because he had kind of pointed out that everything that we have been being reported was like propaganda, was all lies, and like these are the actual facts. And I feel like we're kind of in this whole splinter right now of like, you need to have you if we are the media now, where does the authenticity for the media come from? Where does the fact checking for the media come from? And again, like we were talking about yesterday, where does the transparency come from? And whose job is to do that now? Because Elon's basically taken the wheels off of it and just said, do what you want. But now, when it comes to like advertising dollars, like that brand spend in doing these things, who's actually going in to make sure like the influencers they work with, the people that they work with, are actually, you know, right down the center of what they want them to talk about for one, but also kind of telling the truth. I know we have Instagram where they make you say if something's an ad and all of these other things, but what if that goes away too? You know?
That makes me think what two things. Are we going to end up with meta glasses are basically going to be live fact checking conversations that we're having with people?
Hmm, interesting.
And the other thought, if we are the media now and we're also upticking people's sales by 40%, do we get a kickback?
Mm.
Right.
So just to build on that, because Musk coming out was saying with so much credibility that Musk has, we are the media now. It's like 10 years too late for that statement. We've been the media. You know,
Yeah.
I think Chick-fil-A last week launched their own media app. Chick-fil-A is in the content business. They got shows for families, entertainment. It's like a okay, great. That's awesome. I think it's a great way to engage and build fandoms. But I think where we go next is like the media platforms that aren't any of the big 10 that you just mentioned. It's the decentralized media platform where you've got trusted sources, your own incognito. I'm not talking dark web, that's a whole other thing, but it's the I trust these 10 people for my sources. I trust these people to create. I trust this community of people to create content and wrestle power away from all of the big people that have monopolized a lot of these conversations. I don't know if it's made any traction yet, but it was maybe 6 months ago. It was Napster resurfaced, and they launched a new platform. It's not called Napster. The name of it escapes me right now, but it was designed to give creators a total share in what they create on the platform so that you're getting all the money versus 2 cents on a click. And I just think, that idea of real utopia where people share in the economic gains, you wrestle control away from the monopolies, because the last thing we need is in a world that's more polarized is more billionaires telling us the media, we are the media now. Are we? Are we? Or
Yeah.
are we really take everything into our control and create our own economies? The creator economy is not a myth; it's already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening. And I think even looking at, AG, we were talking about this, 5 years ago when we first started thinking about future possible of like Web 2.0 and then like the whole Web 3.0. And yes, we are the media. We've been the media for a long time, but now that whole media of like who can you actually trust is behind a paywall, which is kind of where we've ended at with like this whole Web 2.0, Web 3.0 platforming. But how do you bring that back to the people? Because even with Elon doing it with, X, formerly Twitter, you have to have like you have to be subscribing to actually see the things you want. There's like a paywall in Twitter now, which is crazy to think about. I refuse to ever pay for Twitter. It's the greatest thing ever, and it's because of the content makers. So why am I giving Elon a penny of it? But that goes into what George was saying about Substack. Substack's great because it's all of these valid creators making long form content. It's what they do on the side. They work for the big magazines, they work for the big publishers, but then they have like their own things. But again, the paywall comes back into play of like, I'm a creator, I'm giving you this content, but this content's not free. Can you do a $10 subscription? Can you do whatever subscription? Here's the free tier, but you're only going to get X amount of articles for free. But in terms of thinking of it in the news and thinking of it in the utopia sense of like how, like with this model, with this creator model, how do we keep it from having like the people who don't have the means to paying like $110 subscriptions across the board? Because right now we're all getting nickel and dime by subscriptions. How do we keep it to a point where we can have valid news, valid content, it's fact checked, it's proven, and you're not losing like your check just to get the news? Because I feel like that's kind of a scary place we could end up
Mm.
where the truth is actually behind a paywall.
That's a great point, because that brings me to another. Sorry, I got a soapbox on this one. The idea that you have to say something absolutely obnoxiously salacious, clickbait, to get a like, to get people to come back, because that's how you're going to get eyeballs and that's how you're going to make revenue. And what's interesting in that model is you're buying into the salacious clickbait headlines, which are in fact never true. As soon as you read below the folds, you're like, oh, why did I click on this? Because I thought it was going to be something juicy, when in fact it wasn't. Something simple happened. I just think that's a real problem, but that's a human behavior problem. I don't think there's
Yeah,
anything that creators can
Mm.
do.
but who trained the humans on that behavior? Yeah,
Click
but and then you
now.
click on it, it's one sentence about what you actually thought the headline was. It's a whole bunch of ads that are like riddling your computer useless. And that's your news experience. Or you pay the subscription and it's like nothing but words and content that you want to see. It's an easy scrolling option. I just feel like we like ad sales, revenue shares, like views, all of those things have kind of like put us in a place where the internet experience is not as good as it could be. The Substack experience is way better. Like the, I mean, even the Reddit experience is better than like most of the news sites.
Mm.
But it's finding those kind of areas that people have put forth the effort to create them. Because I mean, even Wikipedia is a great example of like Utopia Phase One, where it's like a universally shared encyclopedia. You donate to it. It's almost like NPR for a news,
Mm.
like for a platform, where everyone's donating to it. Everyone's like editing it. Everyone's like open format on it. It's great. It works. Yes, you still have to fact check from it, but I rather go read just a bunch of words on Wikipedia versus going to any of the news sites and getting riddled with like random ads, weird stuff that I make a mistake and click on just because it pops up on the screen. It's, I don't know. I've gone off topic, but I think Wikipedia is a good example. Everything that's going on with Substack's a good example. And yes, it's not real time like you would say with Twitter, because Twitter is definitely, everything going on in Gaza, everything that went on with like the the Egyptian spring like a decade ago, all of that type of stuff was happening live on Twitter. And
Mm.
the beautiful thing about it was you could catch all of that live. You could get the news, and then you get kind of like a recap of it from the big news chat, like the big news platforms. But if you wanted the down and dirty, you were on Twitter seeing what's happening.
But I think it's making me think of two questions, which is one, when people go, where do you get your information? What are your sources? And then obviously most people still will talk about like big media platforms, but I think to your point, AG, it'll be super interesting if that future becomes almost like a curation of individuals
Mm-hmm.
that become respected, which if you're in the know, and to your point, Sewell, like curating that you get a balanced view, or, you know, it's an individual version, shall we say, of, I don't know if anyone reads The Week, which is one publication once a week across, and it takes a variety of articles from all the different media outlets to give you supposedly a balanced view. But is that future going to be actually one, you can curate your own individuals that you source, so you're not necessarily having an echo chamber of information, or
Mm-hmm.
are people subscribing or something in the future of, I'm looking for a balanced view, tick these boxes, and you'll get information sourced by these. Do you know what I mean? As if there'll be
Right.
like a middle person to the individuals, so that almost mass audience. Do you know what I mean? Actually, just tick these boxes. What are you interested in? We'll give you the balanced view across these people. Like, I just think which almost becomes then, who would you invite round to your ideal dinner party?
It could turn into that, because even think about technology, you've got like your curation of people that you follow, but what if you fed that curation into something like Notebook LM, or even just like Chat GPT, and you're like, give me a summary of all of these people, then fact check it against this, give me the news, and it like spits it out to you in like your own podcast every day, and you can just like listen to this, or you can read this however you want it, whatever format's the best.
Mine's going to be read by James Earl Jones.
That would be beautiful.
It'll probably be an AI of his voice, but that's okay. I don't mind. It's beautiful. Yeah, I'll listen to his news all day long.
Well, and speaking of that too, just like thinking of the curation and thinking about where you're getting it from, did any of you see Steve Ballmer's new site? Steve Ballmer from Microsoft, he created a usafacts.org site, and it's just pretty much everything that he wanted to know about what's going on, like how money's spent, what taxing is doing, what's this law mean. He made a website totally dedicated to giving you the facts and fact checking anything that like a politician says. It's really, really great site, very down the middle. It doesn't lean any way, it just gives you facts.
Conscious of time, people. So, what are the key takeaways from today, do you think?
Headline has to be what AG said, which is obviously, yeah, Elon is very good at going for the headlines, clickbait. But as we all know, this has been happening for a long time in terms of us being the media. He's obviously pushing his own platform, but it's super interesting for where it goes in the future, because it moves away, I think, from that creator platform of the influencers, so to speak, and goes beyond it to actually just the individuals that care, that have a view, that wouldn't class themselves as influencers, and actually dipping into the people on the front line, wherever it may be, to source the information from them in order to get your own worldview or individual view. And I think it's almost like for brands, how do you go beyond the influencers into the individuals to start sourcing this community that can help building the world that you want to see, that maybe doesn't involve Elon or goes beyond it.
Yeah, and I think that becomes really scary for brands, right? Because a whole industry rose up around the influencer mediaries, the agencies, the interagencies, all of that. And this takes real conversations with real people. And you've got to be authentic. You've got to let them be the people they are, because the last thing in the world you can do is go in and impose your own brand code on them. You've got to show up for a real conversation, and that includes likes, dislikes. It includes criticism. It includes improvement. It includes real conversation. And there's so much power to be gained when that happens, because then it's real, it's genuine, it's believable. And so many brands still try and buy and borrow an audience. You can't borrow an audience. You got to
Yeah.
become part of the audience, and to do that, you got to be real and you got to have some guts.
Yeah, there's no
Definitely.
switching off the comments. in the future.
If only you could. Which makes it a scary thought of like, imagine if there were comments turned on for every aspect of your life and people were actually viewing.
Black Mirror. Yes. There you go. Black Mirror now could be that in the future, you are the media and you see the comments, but the comments are all reflective of your own belief system. You're
Mm.
protected against anything that may violate you, challenge
Yeah.
your beliefs, have an opposing point of view. Because that's the problem with Wetopia is that on the one hand, we will create the world in which we want to live in, but we're going to create multiple worlds and those values and beliefs aren't necessarily going to be shared. And that's where conflict and opportunity comes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, and that's the tension of it all. Yeah. Because you might start off on one path to create one world, but there's a splinter, and next thing you know, you've got multiple different worlds that kind of started off on the same value and belief, but branched into like totally different things that you never thought were possible. And like you said,
Yeah.
they can be good or bad.
Yeah.
Well, I know you said, I just can't do this. It's Thursday, the 7th of November. You said you weren't going to make this political, but I just got to go there for a sec because you've got different tribes of people that all feel left out. And that's the issue of the polarization and the division is you've got name calling on each side because both sides feel left behind. And that's never a good place to live because that's where divisiveness and conflict and disappointment live on both
Mm.
sides of the election. But on this election, one side's a little happier than the other. No
Yep.
comment.
Well, guys, thank you very much, innovators. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. We will indeed be back. In the meantime, though, check out futurepossible.com. Get some inspiration for your next innovation. Till next time, people. Goodbye.